This is a lovely question. Okay, Clove Wright says that they are sorry they couldn't get out to RCCC, Rose City Comic-Con, to say hi, and they're sorry for the long question, but they wanted to put this in context. They say that many years ago they worked backstage during Woodstock shows. These are the shows that Paul and Storm and Will Wheaton and I and a bunch of other friends did for many years all over the country. Started at San Diego Comic-Con, and then we traveled around the country. We've done it all over the place. Anyway, he worked backstage. I'm assuming Clove is a he, but it might not be. They worked backstage at multiple Woodstock shows, and it was a lifetime ago. They had a different name. Oh, there we go. They had a different name back then, and they looked somewhat different than they do now, but something stuck with them. They said they were always amazed by how engaged and kind I was with everyone, fans, friends, family, backstage. Kindness is a rare virtue, and they saw it so much in me. Thank you. As someone who spent a lot of time working on being kinder and more engaged human, I was wondering if you had any advice on what kindness means to you. Oh yeah, I really do. And it has to do specifically with what you're bringing up. I might have said something like this before in the live stream, but it bears repeating. I've met tens of thousands of people in my life. I've had personal interactions with tens of thousands of people. And when I was when I had new notoriety and people wanted to meet me, and they wanted to tell me their stories, and they wanted an interaction with me. And more specifically than wanting an interaction with me, they had thought about the interaction and they were hoping for something out of that interaction, some extra connection. And as a newly famous person, I could feel that desire from them. And it feels socially like a pull. When someone wants something, you can feel it. We are empathetic people. And my response, my natural response to meeting someone I didn't know and feeling this pull from them was to push back a little bit and keep just a little bit of distance. That is a natural human response. And then I made Mythbusters for a decade. Then Jamie and I started touring around the country and around the world. A tour I would also then go do with Michael Stevens. And we performed, let me think about this, probably 40 or 50 shows a year over a 5-year period. Yeah. Is that really accurate? 40 or 50 shows a year for a 5-year period? Yeah, actually that's pretty accurate. So let's say 250 shows, and at the end of each show, I would have a meet and greet with 100 people. So that's 25,000 people right there over 5 years that I'm taking a photo with, shaking hands with, having a personal interaction with. And in the early parts of those tours, those meet and greets were tiring because some people who tour do the meet and greet before the show. I need my head in the game in the way that I perform. Different people are different, but I need to do them after the show. But I'm doing them after a show. I've done a 2-hour show on stage for a couple thousand people. Then I go backstage, I have a drink of water, and I'm gonna go do a meet and greet with 100 people. And yeah, I'm tired. It's the end of my night. It's the end of my work day, and I'm doing this extra thing. And with every person, I feel that pull, and with every person, I'm doing just a little bit of that holding back. And I don't remember where the shift occurred, but there was a moment in which I decided to try something different, which was instead of preparing myself for the meet and greet with that little bit of distance in order to protect myself, I really don't remember what the origin moment was, but there was a moment in which I was like, what if I just lean into everybody? What if I lean in and across and really give into that pull, take in what they're really saying to me, and really have an intersection between two people, take away all those barriers. Now, I really want to say it is impossible for me to separate this act from the privilege I have as a white man in this world. I have a specific experience of being able to do that in a way that feels safe to me that not everybody has. So I just want to say this is my specific experience based on all of the ways in which I was brought up, all the ways I have moved through the world. But what I personally found was that The moment I did that, the moment I took away that little bit of distance and leaned into the people across from me, those meet and greets felt like they took 1/3 of the amount of time. It was totally an education. And more than the meet and greets happened, the meet and greets, first of all, took longer. It was about 90 minutes to go through 100 people or more. Whereas previously we were like trying to, whip through it. The meet and greets took longer and they felt shorter. And more than that, I was usually so wired by the end of a meet and greet that I didn't get to sleep till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I hold that same ethos when I'm at the autograph table. Like, yeah, I want to lean into that interaction. And I have found doing that is an incredible grace. A friend of mine whose parent was famous, and then they got famous, and their parent was giving them advice. And the parent said, you will find that being famous is like being given this magic wand to make somebody's day just by paying attention. And it's a beautiful ethos to reveal to someone about this. Like, just by leaning into that interaction and having a direct connection to another human being, I can have this huge effect. And the cost to me isn't a cost, it's a benefit. That was a revelation. Now, again, I have no idea what it's like to be an attractive woman at an autograph table and how many weird and creepy things people might say to you. I'm very lucky that I don't have to hear that endless list of stuff. And my friends who are women who have real notoriety suffer in many ways. And I don't think that this advice is necessarily applicable across the board, or if there are parts of it that are applicable, they're going to be taken and executed in different ways by different people. But that is my personal experience. And to me, kindness is just recognizing that we're all going through the same stuff. We're all like waking up and sometimes feeling crappy and sometimes feeling good. Our emotions will steer us wrong and ruin things that we like. It'll give us warped perspectives on the world. The world is confusing. Our families can be exhausting. Our partners can be, tough on us. All these things we all go through. Every one of us goes through. Kindness is the recognition that we are all actually going through that. And there's nothing that makes any one of us more or less special in going through those things. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Clove, to tell that story. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad you saw that behavior backstage because it's real. Like I really do take it as an important ethos of my moving through the world to have that connection. Vicky Bly, what are some up and coming one-day builds that you have in mind? The thing is, Vicky, is that I've got a couple of big costume swings that are coming up soon. So they have been absorbing my head. Definitely Ghostbusters is coming up soon. I've got a bunch of one-day builds, but these are also project-specific. Within the one-day builds of like things that I can do in a short period of time, I think one of the things I'm going to be making soon are some of my own versions of moon tools. The Apollo astronauts, when they went to the moon, brought many different iterations of a host of tools for gathering samples on the moon. There's a cart with tools that clipped into it, sample bags for pulling out dust and the debris and rocks and samples from the moon, grabbers. There's all sorts of stuff. It encompasses many different form factors. And after spending a lot of time thinking about replicating some of these exactly, it's occurred to me to make some of my own versions of them. So that is going to be an upcoming one-day build in the next few weeks. My own execution of what some moon tools might look like. That's the top of my head. I'm still doing good. A few more questions? Okay. Charles White, shop infrastructure question. When working on projects, makers tend to need jigs or templates to complete various pieces of a project. Do you find it more beneficial to build jigs yourself at the expense of time, or save time having to spend money on a pre-made jig? It depends on the jig. I have a, what do you call it? One of those corner drillers for drilling screws into the sides of a wooden board into a table. Like, that's the kind of jig that I bought, because setting one up here is going to be a pain in the butt. But for the most part, I'm always building custom jigs. But that's also because I like to work really fast, and I'm often doing stuff for which there's no reasonable store-bought thing. But even then, like, I also will make my own router. I'll make my own router transfer plates. Transfer plates, like the plate that holds it into the router table. I've made several of custom ones. Yeah, here's one. I was working with some Lazy Susan bearings recently, and I wanted to take some meat out of parts of them, and so I made this as a way to do that, and it failed spectacularly. It was a terrifying rig to utilize. I did it wearing big, heavy gloves with my hands as far away from this lathe, from this router bit as possible. Yeah, it was a problem that turned out not to be a problem that I didn't have to solve, that I thought I did, but I wasn't going to save enough weight with the danger of this, so I abandoned it. But yeah, it's all custom jigs here at the shop for the most part. I have a hard time thinking of a store-bought jig that I could utilize in one of my, hole straight, like jigs for drilling holes straight. I've got a ton of those, but again, I made most of those. Oh.